Hello and welcome to the Beef Edge, the Teagasc Beef Podcast, for all your latest news, information and advice for Irish beef farmers. I'm Catherine Egan, and on this week's episode, I'm joined by Green Acres dairy calf to beef participant Shane Cranny from County Carlow. As dairy calves start to arrive on farm, Shane gives some tips when it comes to rearing calves and an update on his farm. Shane, you're very welcome. Can you tell me about your dairy calf to beef system?
We're rearing autumn calves, mostly Frisian bulls. We're buying 110 this year, and they're kind of brought through to beef then under 2-year-olds, so kind of off grass at the end of the second summer.
And what are your key targets, Shane, and what are your finishing targets throughout the system?
Yeah, well, the finishing target is, I suppose, get him away under 24 months anyway, so usually 22, 23 months. The target is kind of a carcass of sort of maybe 320, but there's kind of getting carcass weight isn't a problem anyway on them kind of cattle. It's usually we'd surpass that target. Getting a fat cover is the big issue with them. They'll be a sort of Holstein Friesian type of a calf mostly that you get in the autumn anyway. Then I suppose the targets throughout their life then, from the time they arrive on the farm till they're weaned, you'll be kind of trying to hit that 0.7 of a kilo a day. And then from turnout, I suppose, until they come back in for their first winter, probably around 0.9 of a kilo, 0.6 over the first winter, and then you'll be hoping to well exceed a kilo a day at grass in the second winter, right up to finishing.
That's great, Shane. And I suppose while most farmers in dairy calf to beef production systems are purchasing calves in the spring from the dairy herd, why have you chosen the autumn system?
I suppose originally it was just, there was a lack of housing on the farm, so it kind of suited in that way. You only had weanlings over one winter, and they were kind of gone then off farm before the second winter would come. Where the spring system, I suppose, you'll have your weanlings and then you'll have your cattle heading for 2-year-old that are back in for finishing. That was the main reason. I just found that, I suppose, you've hardier calves going out to grass as well. My calves are, they'll be October, even some September, maybe October, November born. So by the time they go to grass in February, March, they're 4, 5, nearly 6 months old. So you have very few issues at grass. They're ready to kind of convert grass at that stage. It's more or less straight out and meal maybe for 3 or 4 weeks, and then they're cut off of that, and it's grass only for the rest of the year. So you get a huge amount of your growth rate is from grass rather than in the shade on silage or meal. That was probably the main reason.
Most definitely. And what are your key tips when sourcing calves that you've sourced this year?
The last couple of years now, more or less all the calves are coming kind of direct off farm. So this year I think there was 4 farms that came off, which is that's a huge help. It's great to get out onto a farm and you can have a look at the cows and meet the people, meet the farmer that's producing them, I suppose, and you get a fair understanding of the kind of standard of care and their attention to detail, what they're kind of doing. You can have a chat with him maybe about vaccinations with the cows, maybe vaccinated for scours, and the amount of colostrum they're getting, and that kind of thing is a big help rather than buying them, I suppose, off maybe dealers or direct from the mart. And we found kind of generally if you can go into a farmer's yard, he might keep it, he might keep a batch of 10 together for you. And that one batch then of 10 can come straight home into a pen together, and they stay together right through from, the time they arrive in your farm right through to when they're weaned. So it avoids an awful lot of stress on calves. Calves really don't like being mixed. They all know each other, I suppose, in their own groups, and it's a huge benefit if you can keep them settled into one group, I suppose.
And once they arrive on farm, what do you feed the calves and how are they managed?
Yeah, well, usually the day they arrive, I try to get them in the morning, so that first feed in the evening, they'd get sort of 300 grams of milk replacer. So I was starting them off, I suppose, the first that day, and the next day they're on 600 grams split in 2 feeds, morning and evening, and then gradually building them up to 750 grams over maybe the course of 3 days. And then they're kind of on a program then where that's gradually reduced back down as they start to pick a bit of meal. And they're kind of weaned around, when the youngest calf in the batch is 8 weeks old, they're generally weaned in, all going well. And I suppose when they come in then, the first day I do as little as possible with him. I offer them milk in the evening. If they don't drink, I don't really push them to drink. And I do nothing else with them. They're in on a good bed of straw. And then the next day then feed them in the morning and try to give them their intranasal vaccine then for pneumonia. And that's more or less it then, until they maybe give them a week to settle before we go at anything else in terms of vaccinations or dehorning or anything like that. Try and just leave them alone as much as possible. Let them settle fully.
Most definitely, Shane. And I suppose calf rearing is one of the most critical times for a dairy calf to beef system, and it's also one of the most labour-intensive tasks. How do you manage labour on the farm?
I suppose it is labour-intensive, but I don't mind it. It's very, it gives a great routine to the day, I suppose. You have your maybe hour and a half, 2 hours in the morning to feed and do your checks and a bit of bedding and whatever has to be done, and to say maybe an hour and a half in the evening. So I don't mind. I think it gives a great routine to the day, rather than even we have a few sucklers there, and you never know really what's facing you when you go out in the day. Like the great thing with the calves, at least when you're finished up at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, you have your bits done with them. No matter what's going on, you turn off the light in the shed and you go in home. That's, you're finished, and there's not much you can do for them really over the night. Which I think that's great, like, compared to trying to calve cows, or if you're lambing ewes or whatever, you're up late at night and you just don't know what you're facing into from day to day. The calves, you have a great routine. I know it can be kind of labour intensive, as you said, like, but it's very much, it's, I suppose every day has that routine to it, like, what you're going to be doing, and you can organise yourself around it.
And you mentioned there, Shane, the importance of giving the vaccines, and I suppose your mortality levels on the farm are low. What do you credit this to?
Yeah, sure. There's a number of different factors, I suppose. I suppose a certain amount of it is down to luck, I suppose. If you could be very unlucky and buy a batch of calves that just come in wrong, and calves are very soft animals. If a virus gets into a shed, it really does spread through them, and we've had problems, I suppose, with that too from time to time with scours and different things. But I think, the vaccinations are definitely one part of it. We've given that intranasal shot, and then they get their double injection in for their pneumonia vaccination. So last year we only gave them the intranasal shot and got away grand with it. Did the same this year, and all calves, 110 came in, and they all were perfect right through to weaning. But they're just after Christmas. We actually 2 rare calves died within a week of each other, and we sent one of them down to the lab there in Kilkenny, and it came back as Pasteurella. So that's what we missed out on by not going with the double injection, I suppose, after the intranasal vaccine. So we had to go back and do them again anyway. So I suppose they are very important, but they're only part of it. Like, I think that thing of getting calves from a small number of farms, have them come in their batches that they're going to stay in, have a big bed of straw, like I put a bale per pen, so they're 15 by 15 foot pens. Like, I put a full round bale of straw in each of them. Then getting your feeding program with the milk replacer, kind of trying to get that right. You don't want to give them, overfeed them, I suppose, the first couple of days, but still they have to get enough to keep themselves warm. And then it's just avoiding stress, I suppose, on them, trying to leave them alone as much as you can. You don't want to be upsetting them. Like, and I suppose in ventilation in the sheds then is huge as well.
That's great, Shane, and I suppose attention to detail is key for this system also.
It is, yeah. I suppose even getting calves into a routine, like they're a lot more settled if they know what time they're going to be fed morning and evening. They're far more settled, like they're kind of up and awake and ready for their milk at that time in the morning. Like I do usually feed maybe whatever it'd be 7:30, 8:00, and they're ready to drink at that time, and the same in the evening. And then I suppose you have your hygiene then. So I suppose on the milk feeders, I'm feeding 10 at a time just with a teat feeder, a 10 teat calf feeder. And every second day, I disinfect that, wash it out, disinfect it. No, we wash it out every day, but we disinfect it every second day and then change the teat maybe twice or so while the calves are being reared. Definitely if I was changing from one batch to another anyway. Well, I have 2 10T feeders that feed the 110 calves, but I try to use one for maybe 50 and the other for the other 50 or 60, not mix them, and then change the teeth maybe twice in that period as well. And then I suppose getting the shed ready then for the calves, they'll be cleaned out, power washed, and I try to power wash it early in the year, like maybe the middle of the summer, disinfect it and then leave it to dry out for as long as possible. Come back in, disinfect it again then before the calves come in, and then a big bed of straw on it. All them things are important, I suppose. There's a lot of little bits, I suppose. You have to have them all right for things to go well.
Most definitely, Shane. I suppose we've seen the costs rise significantly in the last few months. And what's your plan for the year ahead?
The system I'm in is it's the system I'm in. I'm going to have to kind of go ahead with what I was doing every year. I was lucky enough with the milk replacer is gone very expensive as well, but I was lucky enough there to have them rear in the autumn. It wasn't near as bad. Then I suppose fertilizer is the other major one, but you'd like to be, I suppose, targeting the paddocks with maybe the fresher grass in it, ones that are going to get a kick from the fertilizer, ones maybe with good soil fertility and everything else. But like that, I suppose that's one of the downsides to the autumn calves. Like I'm facing out now, we have a very high stocking rate early in the year. Whereas I suppose if we're in a spring system, kind of still bringing cattle through to beef a 2-year-old, all you have going out now are your weanlings, so your rare calves from last year. Your spring calves are only starting to come through. They're not going to have a high demand for grass until May, June. Whereas I have the rare calves now, like I said, they're 4, 5, 6 months old. Plus I have the yearling cattle, so last year's rare calves. So they're all looking for grass now at the minute. So I've kind of no option really other than to go heavy with fertilizer. That's the system I'm in, and for this year I'm going to have to just stick it out, I suppose, and plough ahead with it. I suppose that is the main downside, or one of the main downsides anyway, I suppose, to the autumn calf.
And what's your plan for grazing for the next weeks and months ahead?
I would have cattle out already, I suppose, the last couple of weeks, only we've been kind of busy there putting in a farm roadway and paddocks and new drinking troughs and stuff, and I'm just not set up for them. But I'm hoping the first of the rare calves now will be going out, well, hopefully tomorrow morning now if I'm set up for them. And then maybe next week I'll start letting out a few more. I just done the first kind of farm cover there yesterday. And I was a little bit disappointed. It was a bit behind where I thought it would be. But I'll probably now this evening I'll make up a plan for, maybe the first rotation and see how we get on. But should be hoping to have the whole place grazed by maybe the second week in April anyway at the latest. So I may kind of get stock out now fairly quickly anyway.
That's great, Shane, and thanks very much for such an insight into what you're doing on your farm and some key tips.
Oh, well, thank you.
That's all for this week's episode, and my thanks to Shane for joining me on the show. You can catch up on all other shows and interviews from the Beef Edge podcast on the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie, or you can listen on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe so you never miss a show. For all other updates from our beef programme, keep an eye on our Twitter and Facebook pages. Until next time, I'm Catherine Egan and thanks for listening.